رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير آمين يا رب العالمين. We finished the last lecture on some words including, I'm going to write those words here. Insan, insanun, if we fully vocalize this. Ikra, and let's write another one, fi. Okay, so just to recap, we said that insan is noun, ikra verb, and this we defined loosely as particle. Okay, so what is the Arabic terminology? So the Arabic terminology is noun, we call it ism, ismun, verb is fail, failun, and particle is harf, harfun. Plural of ism is asma'un. This is part of our vocabulary as well. Asma'un, fail, af'alun, and harf, hurufun. Okay, so that's our terminology. Now, any word which we throw out of our mouth with the help of our tongue is called lafz. Lafz. Lafzun. Lafz. So lafz is Arabic word, the translation of which is in English is word. Okay, and plural of that is alfazun. So lafz literally means to throw. So anything which we throw out of our mouth with the help of our tongue is called lafz. Okay, so lafz in Arabic could be either, well, any language, it could be either meaningful or it could be meaningless. Okay. Those who live in England, they are very familiar with this old BBC soap. It's a kind of old-time classic. And there is, the name of the soap is Only Fools and Horses. There is a character in the soap with the name of Del Boy. And when the things go in his way, he becomes very happy and he tends to say, lovely jubbly. Okay, so lovely is a meaningful word. And jubbly, don't know how to write it, jubbly, is a meaningless word. So meaningful, meaningless. But he would usually say it, and sometimes people on the street use the same words to show their happiness. So kind of accepted normal. Meaningful word in Arabic is called kalima. Kalimatun. And plural will be kalimatun. So, because in Quran and Hadith there is no meaningless word, so this is not going to be the focus of our attention. We are only going to focus on meaningful words. So that makes life a lot easier. You can also see from here that lafz, the translation is word, and kalima, English translation will be word. Now, if we examine that carefully, every kalima is lafz, but every lafz is not necessarily kalima. So, just saying word, we will not know really what we are talking about, whether it's lafz or kalima, unless we say meaningful word and meaningless word. So, you know, this language is really logical. So what we have said is that any meaningful word in Arabic is called kalima. Kalimatun. Okay. So kalima is basically of three types. It could be an ism, ismun, fail, failun, or harf, harfun. We can translate these in English very easily. Ism is noun. Ism literally means name. Noun also means name. Fail is verb. And harf we loosely translated as the particle. There is nothing equivalent of harf in English, so particle will do for now. Now in English we have 8 or 9 parts of speech, and here these are the parts of speech, and there are only 3. So these are basically parts of speech. So in Arabic there are 3 parts of speech: ismun, failun, harfun. And how come in English we have 8 or 9? So that's not really a problem, and especially some of the English speakers will say the basic parts of speech in English are also noun and verb, and everything else just fills in and plays their role or its role. Under the category of ism, which we have loosely translated as noun, we have actually noun under this category, the English noun, and then we have pronoun, we have adjective, adverb, and interjection. Verb is just verb. Important bit is that there is a tense in verb, so it's past, present, or future tense. Under particle, we are going to cover prepositions. Most English prepositions will come here. Conjunctions, and in Arabic there are other words which come under the category of harf, but there is no equivalent in English really. For example, one of the words is inna. We are all familiar with it because we read Quran. Inna. Inna is a particle of emphasis in Arabic. Wal asri innal insana lafi khusr. Yasin wal Quran al Hakim innaka laminal mursaleen. So inna is one of the haruf as well, but it doesn't fall under these two categories. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the definitions here because this is our foundation, and our foundation will have to be strong. We are going to build on our foundation, and without a strong foundation, our building is not going to stand any chance. What is noun? Noun is name of a place, person, thing, or an idea. Let me write down here. Noun. Name of person, place, thing, or an idea. They all fall under the category of noun. Noun has its own meanings. For example, we say Hamidun, the name of a person. We say Filun, elephant. We say Tiflun, child. We say Londonu, the name of a place. Makkatu, the name of a place. We say Kalamun, pen, the name of a thing. And on top of that, all the emotions such as anger, affection, happiness, these are all nouns. So what is a verb? Okay. Verb also has its own meaning, but there is a tense as well. Noun doesn't have a tense. Verb will have a tense, past tense, present tense, or future tense. So, for example, we say Nasara. He helped. Past tense. We can say Yakra'u. He reads. Present tense. So, verb will have its own meanings, but there will also be tense in that as well. What about the particle, the harf? Particle. It has kind of meaning in itself, but to elaborate its meanings, to express its meanings, it is going to need the help of another word. It could be a verb or it could be a noun. For example, if I keep on saying in, doesn't really mean anything. On the other hand, if I say in the room, so it makes sense. If I say under, doesn't make sense. If I say under the tree, so then it makes sense. So the particles need the help from another word to express their meanings, to make their meanings clear. Just a reminder here, act of doing something is a verb, but the action itself is not a verb. For example, we say, if I say, I am reading a book. So reading here is a verb and it is present continuous tense. It's a verb, ongoing action. If I say reading is difficult, then the reading in that sentence, let me write down, I am reading a book. This is verb. Reading is hard. This is a noun. If I say I am working with the government, working here is a verb. And if I say working is hard, so working then becomes a noun. In English, there are different names which are given to this kind of nouns. For example, gerund, we can say infinite. You can revise your English here as well. We can say verbal noun. In Arabic, this is called masdar. So masdar is a really very important concept in Arabic. We also see masadar in Urdu as well. Quran is full of masadar. And one day, inshallah, we will have a separate talk on the topic of masdar. It is very important. And we will know especially the difference between masdar and noun. For example, masdar is noun, but then compared to ism, I should say ism rather than noun. So there will be a difference between ism and masdar. Both are noun. Let's move on. For correct use of a noun in a sentence, we will have to be familiar with 4 aspects of a noun. I'm going to start the formal start of our Arabic grammar with noun. Most of you remember, certainly I remember that when I started learning English, we started with verb. But in Arabic, because we can make sentences without verb in Arabic, so it's completely okay to start with noun, and you will see that it will make sense to start with noun. So I was saying that for correct use of a noun in an Arabic sentence, we will have to be familiar with 4 aspects of a noun. If we will have to examine a noun from 4 different angles. And if we are not familiar with these 4 attributes of a noun, we are going to make mistakes in the formation or formulation of sentences. For example, we will have to know whether a noun is definite or indefinite. Definite or indefinite. Okay, it's going up. Right. In English, we loosely say proper noun, translation of this, or common noun. Common noun is okay, but proper noun is actually a category of definite noun. One of the categories of definite noun is proper noun, and we will see that there are 6 other categories of definite noun later on. So the concept of proper noun and common noun doesn't really apply here, definite or indefinite. And in Arabic, we say marifa or nakira. So from its definiteness point of view, a noun will either be marifa or nakira. And we will study this topic under the heading of wus'a. Wus'atun. We can translate that as capacity of a noun. In English, I remember we said the kind of noun or the type of noun, whether a noun is proper noun or a common noun. But that concept doesn't really apply here. We will have to say either a noun is definite or indefinite, marifa or nakira. And the concept of wus'a, its capacity, makes sense here. For example, if I have 30 people sitting in front of me and I say, can Hamid fetch me a glass of water? So hopefully Hamid will go and bring me a glass of water. On the other hand, if I say, can someone fetch me a glass of water, please? So the capacity here, the possibility here is 1 out of 30 now. Initially, the capacity was limited. There was only one person. Hopefully, there was only one Hamid there. So the capacity of that noun was limited. But when I said, when someone, when it became nakira, when it became indefinite, so the possibility increased. Its capacity became wider. So common noun has wider capacity. Indefinite noun has wider capacity. On the other hand, indefinite. On the other hand, definite noun is bound to have a limited capacity. So we will look at this one day, this topic in detail. This is just the introduction. Next, we will have to know whether a noun is masculine or feminine. In English, most of the time, it doesn't really matter. In Urdu, it does matter to some extent. In Arabic, it always matters to know whether a noun is masculine or feminine. Masculine or feminine. In Arabic, we say muzakkar or muannas. So we will have to know whether a noun is masculine or feminine. And this we are going to study under the topic of gender. In Arabic, we call it jins. So in Arabic, from the gender point of view, a noun is only of two types, either masculine or feminine. There's no neutral gender in Arabic. And I have used the terminology masculine or feminine. I didn't say male or female. Male or female is more to do with the sex of a noun, and it applies to humans and lower animals. But in reality, in Arabic, every noun can have a gender, which we call grammatical gender. For example, table, chair, book, qalam, they will all have gender. And without knowing that, we will make a mistake. Just a quick example here, those who know Urdu. We want to say in Urdu, the wall has fallen. In English, it doesn't really matter. In Urdu, if we say, Diwar gir gaya, that will make sense, but grammatically incorrect, because Diwar in Urdu is feminine. So the correct way of saying will be Diwar gir gayi. So the wall has fallen. In English, it doesn't really matter. In Arabic, this is very, very important. We will also have to know the number of a noun. Number. It could be singular or it could be plural. But in Arabic, there is a third category or type, which is that of dual. In Arabic, the plural starts from 3. In all the other languages which I know, the plural starts from 2. Singular is singular, and 2 and then onwards, that's all plural. In Arabic, there will be a separate word for dual, and the plural starts from 3. So singular is wahid, wahidun. This will be tasniya. So many dots here. Tasniyatun. And plural will be jam'a, jam'un. So from the other point of view, a noun in Arabic will be either singular, dual, or plural. There is no fourth category. Okay, now we are going to move on to the next aspect, the next attribute of a noun, which is really, really important. These are also important, but that is the most important aspect of a noun. And I'm going to be a little bit slow here and going to spend quite a bit of time on it, because this is very important concept to get hold of. I'm going to write here 3 sentences. Hamid helped Zaid. Hamid and Zaid are going to be our friends really throughout. Zaid helped Hamid. Zaid helped Hamid's brother. Okay. If I ask you what happened to the noun Hamid here, you will say, okay, in this sentence Hamid is a subject. In the next sentence Hamid is object, and in the third one Hamid is neither subject nor object. And then if I ask you, can you say in a nutshell what has happened to Hamid in these 3 sentences? You may have to stop and think, perhaps, and then someone may come up with the answer that the status of the Hamid has changed in these three sentences. Here, the Hamid is doer of the action of the verb. Here, Hamid is a recipient or receiver of the action of the verb. And in this sentence, Hamid is neither the doer nor the done to. Okay. So, with this in mind, I will say this change in the status of a noun in different sentences is called i'rab. I'rab. I'rabun. I'rab. So that's the most important aspect of a noun which we will have to be really familiar with. Okay, let's go one step further. I'm going to write three more sentences here. I'm going to write here, he went to the market. His car broke down. A friend gave him a ride. Okay, so what I have done here is that I have changed Hamid into the relative pronoun. So he here is Hamid. Okay. Remember, in Arabic, pronouns are also ism. They come under the category of ism. So noun is ism, pronoun is also ism. And in this example here, the ism has changed again in these three sentences. Here, he, which is the same noun as Hamid, is subject because clearly Hamid went to the market driving a car, so he was driving car, so subject, doing something, doer of the action of the verb. Here Hamid is object because Hamid is not active here, someone else is helping. And in this case, Hamid is again an additional state. Hamid is mentioned here because of his relationship to another noun, because of Hamid nouns, its connection to another noun. Hamid as a noun, if I use, I will say its connection to another noun. Okay, so again status of Hamid has changed here, but in these examples something else has also changed. And what is that something? If we focus here on he, his and him, we will see that the appearance of the noun, appearance of the ism has changed. How has it changed? The change has occurred in the end part of the ism, not the initial part but the terminal part of the ism. The change has taken place. This ism ends here with E, this ends with S, this ends with M, and that is very important in Arabic. Having said all this, I can redefine i'rab and say change in the status of a noun accompanied by change in its appearance without any change in its meaning is called i'rab. Meaning of the noun does not change. Hamid is Hamid here, Hamid here, Hamid here. Status of Hamid has changed, but not the meaning. Similarly here, the status has changed, but not the meaning, and that's a very, very important concept in i'rab. Now the change which has occurred here, this ism has ended in E. So the case ending here is E. In subjective case, the ending is E. Case ending here is S. The case ending here is M. And this change in the appearance of a noun is called inflection. And this inflection, when it is applied to a noun, it's called declension. And when this change of inflection is applied to a verb, it's called conjugation. So the nouns in Arabic, they decline. My children tell me that declension of nouns also occurs in other language. It doesn't apply to English really. Arab in English is I like you, you like me. That's all the Arab in English is. French, there's no Arab. Children tell me that declension of nouns occur in German, in Russian, and in Latin, for example. But that declension which occurs in those languages is not really similar to Arab. So Arab is unique to Arabic. Only the sister language Hebrew perhaps have some similarities, but no other language has Arab. Let me write here these what has happened to Hamid here in these three scenarios. So we said the case ending. So the case ending, the first one is called in English subjective case. Three cases clearly. So the first one is subjective case. The second one is objective case. And the third one is possessive case. This is also a test of your English spellings. So this is Old English terminology. The modern English terminology is nominative case, this will be accusative case, and this will be genitive case. And what is the Arabic terminology? Arabic terminology is raf'a, state of raf'a, raf'un, the state of nasb, nasbun, and the state of jar, jarun. And these names are also very logical. Raf'a means to raise, to be high up. And a subject in a sentence is in a higher state because the person is active. The person who is helping others will be active, going around, making arrangements, etc., etc. And those who are in a less favorable state, they will be waiting for the help and just sitting at one place. So not as active, kind of fixed at one place. And nasb means to be fixed in one place. For example, electrical pole is nasb to the ground. So objective case, nasbun makes sense. Jarun means to pull down, to drag along. And when Hamid's car broke down, Hamid didn't broke down, and because his car broke down, he was also dragged along and kind of became immobile, not as active as he was when his car was okay. So This is the Arabic terminology. This is noun, and its adjective form will be marfu. Halat rafa'a we can also call it marfu. Marfu'un. This we can call its adjective form mansubun. And this will be majrurun. So in Arabic, a noun will be either in state of rafa, state of nasb, a state of jar, or we can say in Arabic a noun will be marfu, mansub, or majroor. Once we have become familiar with this terminology, we will have to rub this up from our brain as well, because these have been mentioned here just to make a connection in our brain and remember this terminology. Because otherwise, if a noun is in a state of rafa, will always be subjective case, but on the other hand, a noun which is subjective case is not necessarily going to be always in the state of rafa. Similarly, a noun in nasb will always be objective case, but a noun which is in objective case is not necessarily always going to be in state of rafa. And that applies here as well, that a noun in state of jar will always be a possessive case, but a possessive case is not always going to be in state of jar. So it's important just to remember that terminology and rub this off completely. Okay, so let's look at what we have done up till now. So if we look at Hamid, so Hamid, state of rafa, Hamid, state of nasb, Hamid, and state of jar is also Hamid. In English, no change occurs. Pronouns in English may show change, and this will be he and him here, and majroor form will be his. And when we write this in Arabic, Hamid, we will write in state of rafa, we will write Hamidun. In state of nasb, we are going to write Hamidan, and in state of jar, we are going to write Hamidin. So you can see the change here has occurred, and it is in the terminal part, the end part of the noun, and this is in the form of dun, dan, and bin. So the first part of the noun is the same in three states, and the second part, the appearance of the second part of the noun has changed. So just to save time, what I have done is I have written these states here, right, as some vocabulary. So for example, we can start from Hamid. So it's Hamidun in rafa, Hamidan and Hamidin. Kitabun, book, kitabun, kitaban, kitabin. Waladun, ladka. Waladun, waladan, waladin. Bintun, ladki or daughter. Bintun, bintan, bintin. We have here Jannatun, garden, Jannatun, Jannatan, Jannatin. Sma'un, sky, Sma'un, Sma'an, Sma'in. Ibrahim, Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, Ibrahima. Name of a person. Jahannamu, Jahannama, Jahannama. Masajidu is plural of masjidun. Masajidu, masajida, masajida. And then we are familiar with these words. Haza, used for this, demonstrative pronoun. Haza, haza, haza. Allazi is a relative pronoun. Allazi, allazi, allazi. Very commonly used in Quran. So what's happening here? If you examine carefully up to here, sama'un, there are 3 states and 3 forms. 3 states and 3 shapes of the noun. Here, on the other hand, we have 3 states but 2 forms. So the form of the noun in nasab and jar is the same. And here, 3 states, only 1 form, and the shape doesn't change in rafa, nasab or jar. So what we call these, this will be up to here 85% of nouns will behave that way. 3 states, 2 forms. 15% will behave like this. 3 states, 2 forms, and 2% will behave like this. 3 states, only 1 form. They will not change their shape at all. But it will not really be difficult to recognize them in a sentence, because in English it was very easy. It's Hamid, Hamid, Hamid in English, and we knew when was Hamid subject, when was Hamid object, and when was Hamid additional in a possessive state. So it is not difficult to make that out. Although we said he, him, his, 3 different, but if we use she, that will be she, her, her. And also in a sentence we can make out where her is, what state, objective or a possessive state. So it becomes quite clear in a sentence, the composition of a sentence, the construction of a sentence. In the text before and after that, we will know exactly, in this case for example, where does it, which category does it fall, rafa, nasab or jar, and similarly these as well. So we are going to study these 2 categories later on in detail. There is another point which I want to make here at this stage, and that is that if you look carefully here, I'm sure you have noticed that already, that when we write a noun in nasb, we add alif. This is a spelling rule. Okay, it doesn't change the meaning of the noun, it's just a spelling rule. We add alif here. So majority of the nouns will take alif at the end of the word in state of nasb. However, there are 2 exceptions to this rule. There are rules and there will be exceptions. So we are going to study rules, and we are also going to study exceptions to those rules. There will be only few rules, there will be no exception at all, but most of the time there will be exceptions. So in this case there are 2 exceptions. If a noun ends in tied up ta, the circular ta, then when we write in nasb, we do not add alif. And the second thing is, if a noun ends in hamza and before that we have alif, again we do not add alif here. So these are 2 exceptions. On the other hand, you have also noticed here, I'm sure you have, that when in this category of nouns, when we write them in the nasab and the jar form, one, the appearance is the same, and second, when there is no tanween, we do not add alif here. So Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, Ibrahima, Jahannamu, Jahannama, Jahannama, no alif here. Masajidu, Masajida, Masajida. So this category is called munsarif. That's another terminology. We will be using it, in which the change occurs all along. Munsarif, and this category is called Ghairu Munsarif. Just remember the terminology. So 3 forms Munsarif, 2 forms Ghairu Munsarif, and here these nouns are fixed. They're called mabni. Mabni. So 2%, so 85% are munsarif, 15% are ghairu munsarif, and only 2% are mabni. They do not change at all. In any circumstances, they do not change at all. I know this lecture has become longer, but just to make the final point and make sure we understand what i'rab is, I'm going to give you another example here. Let's wipe this off. So from the i'rab point of view, noun will be one of 3 categories: rafa, nasb, or jar, state of jar. And I'm going to write here word jannatun. Garden. Here it will be jannatan, and here it's going to be jannatin. Okay. So the change has occurred in the end part, the terminal part of the noun, and that's what i'rab is. On the other hand, if I write similar words here, like I will write, for example, jinnatun, is rather than fatha is kasra here, jinnatun, and another word will be junnatun with dhamma. Junnatun. Jannatun is garden. Jinnatun is madness. You can see the word jinn in it, I think. Jinnatun is madness, and Jinnatun is a shield, a protection. Okay. So what's happening here is that the change has occurred in the first part of the word, of the noun. That change is not i'rab. That change will change the meaning of the noun. But Arabic change which occurs in the terminal part of a word, of a noun, that will not change the meaning of the noun. It will only change the status of a noun in a sentence. So I hope the concept of i'rab has become clear here. The concept of i'rab is going to evolve as we go along on this journey of learning Arabic grammar. Just the last point before I stop. Imran Khan, this is not political at all, by the way. How do we write Imran? Imran we write with an. Imran Khan. So when he was cricketer, he was Imran Khan. Now he is Prime Minister. He is still Imran Khan. So status of Imran Khan has changed, but the meaning of Imran Khan hasn't changed. I hope that has made sense to you. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.